Welcome, everyone. So happy to be learning together again and being together in another class of Drisha. This is the first class in this session, Vayikra, A Guide to Relationship with Miss Rachael Gelfman Schultz. Just a few words about the class. So although Vayikra may seem difficult to connect to today, it provides many deep insights about relationships, both interpersonal and between people and God. Vayikra explores questions such as what role do gift giving and physical acts of service play in building relationships? How can we restore a relationship after a rupture? So that the rupture helps the relationship even grow closer rather than more distant. How do we set limits and boundaries in relationships? And what do we do when those limits are not respected? How do we balance routine and spontaneity in relationships? In this course, we will explore these questions by looking closely at several passages from Vayikra, using a wide range of commentaries from ancient to modern. And Rachael here is a teacher and a writer. We're so glad you're with us. She has taught in a variety of formal and informal Jewish educational frameworks in Israel and also in the US, including high school, Hebrew school, adult education, and one-on-one tutoring. She specializes in teaching students in the process of conversion. Rachael also writes, edits, and translates for Jewish nonprofit organizations and publishers, as well as writing Jewish educational curricula. Rachael has a BA from Harvard University in religion and an MA from Hebrew University in Jewish thought. Rachael also studied in the Breweria Scholar Program at Midrashet Lindenbaum and at the Advanced Kolelet Pardes Institute. Rachael is originally from Sharon, Massachusetts, and she now lives with her family at Mitzpenet Tofa in the Galil. And with that, I'll turn this to you, Rachael.
So good to see you all. It's very exciting. It's cool to have everyone coming in from all over the world. I've been thinking a lot about Vayikra lately for the past couple of years. Like, how can I connect to this book more? Like, on the surface, it seems very difficult to connect to. A lot of small physical details, a lot of blood and guts. The sacrifices in general, I think, are often hard for us to connect to today. And I took this course by Rabbi Nehemiah Poland, which was really helped me, sort of a turning point in how to look at the book of Vayikra. He teaches at Hebrew College. And I have a quote for him in the beginning of the source sheet, which I'll just read. He says, Vayikra will be read as a handbook of intimacy, a guide to restoring relationships gone off track, and even more focally, a handbook of establishing, maintaining, and augmenting healthy relationships. So basically, to look at Vayikra, first of all, as a guide to how we as individuals can build our relationship to God. And one part of this is what happens when it goes off track, and how do we take it from there to build an even stronger relationship after the, whatever you want to call it. And then, but the second part is just like the routine, everyday acts that go into building a relationship, and how to, like he says, to maintain a healthy relationship. What are these everyday acts that we do in order to maintain relationships? And this applies not only to our relationships with God, but also to our relationship. Many of these insights can also apply to our interpersonal relationships, which I think is not necessarily something that people think about when they're looking at Vayikra. So I wanted to start today. So another thing to know is that in this class, I'm not going to do I'm not going to go through Vayikra. I'm going to choose a few select topics and go into them in depth. And I hope through that to learn about some insights that are very central to the book. But I'm not going to give an overview. I'm not even necessarily going to go maybe we'll see. Maybe it'll end up being in the order of the book, but I'm not going to try in any way to do any systemic overview of Vayikra. We have 5 hours together. It's not enough. So I just want to pick 5 different topics and go on in depth. So I'm going to start with a topic with the Trumat Hadeshen. Does anyone want to define what Trumat Hadeshen is? Oh. Yeah, Shay? Were you raising your hand? Yeah.
Just make sure to unmute first anytime.
Yeah. So it's like clearing the ashes from that have built up from the previous day.
Right, exactly. So every day in the temple, there would be the Korban Tamid, right? You'd have the morning, and the Korban Tamid is, we'll see in a minute inside, but it would go on, it would continue burning the whole night. And then in the morning, we'd have to clear, the priest would clear the ashes. And Truma would actually take up, right? Truma means to take up, it would take up the ashes. So I wanted to start with a little story, because it's always nice to start with a story. So I could share my screen, right?
Perfect.
Yeah. So would anyone like to read the story by that Rev Avi Weiss brings?
Do you want to make it full screen?
Bigger? Yeah. How do I do that?
Maybe under Tetsuga.
Tetsuga in.
Right,
you mean
at the top.
In my word, right?
Right. Do you see the word Tetsuga under that? Left. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I can.
Maybe try that. I can't remember in Hebrew how does that work, but I think maybe Tetsuga. If not, that's okay. You could also keep it. Maybe the one that says 100%, but I'm not sure.
If it wasn't 100%, I could do 200%. Is that better? But then we don't get quite.
It's okay. You could just keep it the way it was. Yeah, it's fine for me, but.
Okay, hold on. I can do a little bit. You guys also, does everyone have? Everyone has the source sheet themselves also.
I put it in the chat and I'll put it again now. Exactly.
Here, I need 150. I'll get that in. Okay. All right. Does anyone want to read the story out loud? I can't see everybody, but Miriam? Are you? Oh, it looked like you were unmuting yourself. You don't have to. Does anyone have a volunteer to read the story?
Story.
Go ahead, Susan.
A few years ago, a husband and wife appeared before Rabbi Rav Gifter, Rosh Yeshivat Schultz, asking him to rule on the family dispute. The husband, a member of Rav Gifter's kollel, felt that as one who studied Torah, it was beneath his dignity to take out the garbage. His wife felt otherwise. Rabbi Gifter concluded that while the husband should in fact help his wife, he had no religious or legal obligation to remove the refuse. The next morning, before the early services, the Rosh Yeshiva knocked on the door of the young couple. Startled, the young man asked Rabbi Gifter in. No, responded Rabbi Gifter. I've not come to socialize, but to take out your garbage. You may believe it's beneath your dignity, but it's not beneath mine.
So I love this story that Ravi brings. It will become, it's not already obvious, it will become obvious how this is related to Trumat Hadeshen. It's also a great story to begin our theme of talking about Vayikra and relationships, and how I think one message of Vayikra regarding relationships is sort of how important the little details are, which we'll see develop later as this class goes on. And how important all those things like taking out the garbage, which we don't really like to do, especially I have little kids, so there's a billion and one things that you have to do for little kids, which are not always fun, but all the physical details. But that those things, all those small details and small physical acts of service are what actually goes into, over the long term, building intimacy. Okay, so I want to start by looking at the text. And we're going to really just focus on these 6 verses, I think it is. And try to really go into depth about these verses. So can I have a volunteer to read Leviticus in either English or should we read everything in English or Hebrew or both?
We usually do mostly in English, but it's okay to
Okay.
also do both.
All right. So someone wanna volunteer and read it in English? Yeah, go ahead, Maureen.
Maureen, just unmute first, okay? Oh, sorry. Can you press it one more time, Maureen? Okay.
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Command Aaron and his sons thus. This is the law of the burnt offering. It is the burnt offering, which shall be burning on the hearth on the altar all night until morning. And the fire of the altar shall be kept burning in it. The priest shall dress in his linen garment with linen pants next to his body. And he shall take up the ashes from the fire, consuming the burnt offering on the altar, and place them beside the altar. He shall then take off his
Just one sec, Maureen.
Yeah.
Right, so that, just to say, since we're reading the English, right, the take up the ashes, which Maureen just said, that's Herimat Hadeshen, and that's the Trumat Hadeshen that we were talking about. Okay, keep going.
He shall then take off his garments and put on other garments, and take out the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. The fire on the altar shall be kept burning in it, not to go out. Every morning, the priest, the Kohen, shall burn on it the wood, lay out on it the burnt offering, and turn into smoke on it the fat parts of the peace offering. Yeah, this is so Vayikra. A perpetual fire shall be kept burning on
Topic to
the
begin
altar,
with.
not to go out. What?
I said that's why it's the perfect topic to begin with.
Yes, right.
It's yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So what question this passage? Right? We have Zot Torat Haolah, this is the law of the burnt offering, and we have a description of the fire, right, burning on the hearth all night until the morning, and then a description of the Trumat Hadeshen, of this process of taking up the ashes, and then the fire on the altar shall be kept burning. We have a description of what we call the Eish Tamid, right, the perpetual fire as it's translated here. So what questions do people have? Just throw out questions to start off with. We're probably not going to answer all of them, but we'll see. We'll see what we get to.
How do they get ashes out of the fire while the fire is still burning without burning themselves?
Good question. Yes, the whole relationship between the fire and the ashes, and where is one, and how, what is the fire that's continually burning, and what is the fire that's added to, is a good question. Yeah.
Why does he have to change his clothes?
Another good question, right? They're really, what your question points to, they're really process. There's taking up the ashes, Haramat Hadeshen, which is the Trumat Hadeshen, and then he changes his clothes, as you're pointing out, and he puts on other clothes, and he takes out the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. So it's a really like a two-part action, that taking out the ashes, taking up the ashes, and then taking out the ashes. We're not actually going to go into detail about that, but it's a fascinating question. Later, we're going to read another reason that I started to get interested in the question of Vayikra, as I translated an article of Yonatan Grossman on this passage, and that question is something to do a lot in detail. So you can take a look there. There's also a question whether every day the taking out and the taking on, these two parts of the process happened every day, or maybe every day they took up the ashes, and then when it really accumulated, then they took out the ashes, meaning every several days. Yeah, any other questions?
Well, one way or the other, if they always have to take the ashes out to a clean place, sooner or later they're going to run out of clean places.
Right. So what is this clean place that they're talking about? Yeah. Well, it could be very far away. I mean, if it's very far away, they won't run. They can always go further, and they won't run out of quick. But that's another question. Where is this clean place, and how do we, right? Doesn't it get filled up at some point, right?
Also, as soon as you've dumped your ashes there, does that make it no longer clean, and you have to start you have to have another clean place?
Right,
yeah.
Right, exactly. And why do they need to be in a clean place to begin with? Their ashes, like, it seems very strange.
What does tukad mean?
Okay, yeah, tukad, which will fire yours in here in the last verse, Esh tamid tukad al hamizbeach lo tichveh.
Well, it's repeated in many forms.
Right, which is translated here, shall be kept burning, right? We have up here, al mokdah, this is, here we translate it, shall be burning on the hearth, right? On the altar all night, okay? Eshem izbech tukad bo, again, shall be, fire of the altar shall be kept burning in it. So it's something about, the continual, this burning on the hearth, the constant burning. But yeah, same word. I see we have some more people joining us. Miriam and Ziva, welcome. Where are you guys coming in from? We just we went around in the beginning and just said where we were from. Where are you coming in from, Miriam?
I'm actually from Sharon.
Oh, another Sharon. Sharon is very well represented, and Ziva is not on, so is not. But welcome, Ziva, as well. Okay, any other questions that people have about the structure of how this is structured, or anything else? Okay. Oh, all right. So one question that I have that I want to explore is okay, so it starts, command Aaron and his sons thus. This is the law of the burnt offering. So the title of the whole section is This is the law of the burnt offering. And what would you expect after we say this is the law of the burnt offering? What would you expect to come next?
What is the burnt offering?
Yeah, like what is the burnt offering?
What are you burning? And why
what are you burning? What animals? Anything, right? Like what's going on? But instead, what we mainly have, we have this first sentence which says that the burnt offering stays on the hearth all night until morning. And then we have the description of the Trumat Hadeshen, that both the taking up and the taking out the ashes. And then we have the H Tamid, this description of the perpetual fire. So actually, in no place does it really actually go into the details of what the Olah, the burnt offering, is. So why, the question that I really want to look at is like, why does it go from the title of the burnt offering? In other words, how are these details as if the definition of a burnt offering, or the details that fall under this title? Hello, Ziva. Welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute. All right, now you can't see, or you can, or here, stop share. Okay, I just wanted to see everybody. Okay, so what I want to start with so in order to do this, we have to understand better what is Trumat Hadeshen, and why is this like the salient detail that the Torah gives us under the heading of this is the law of the burnt offering. So I wanted to first start with the words Trumat Hadeshen. What do these words evoke? So first of all, Trumat Hadeshen. What is that? What are the associations that people have with Trumat Hadeshen, with the word Truma?
Truma is like an offering.
Right, an offering, exactly.
Contribution,
right? What else? Where's the place that we see Truma the most frequently?
Tithing?
Yeah, exactly, right? We give the truma, the tithe that we give to the priests, right? To the Kohanim. So that's a very interesting word to use for what's basically, like, if you want to use Rav Avi Weiss's analogy, like taking out the, we're saying truma, we take it out. We what would the associate, with tithing, right? We're taking something from the food, we're taking it and we're elevating the food to God by giving this truma, right? By giving the truma from our produce, we're elevating it to God. And the word itself, truma, we're being merim, we're raising it up. Okay. So that's truma. So already we see that this isn't just, taking out the garbage, as it were. It's not just, I mean, there is obviously some element of taking out the garbage, but it's also more than that. And the word deshen, like how would people translate that? And what associations does the word have?
Compost,
Compost.
more
Okay.
modern usage.
But that's more modern, right? Exactly. Yes, we gave this, we had my son's 12-year-olds over, and we were talking about Trumata Deshen, and that's, to give a little parsha shir, and that's like what they mentioned, right? Compost, that's like modern Hebrew. But biblically, what is Deshen?
Ashan is ashes, isn't it?
Yes,
Ashan.
it's the ashes, but it's not, it's Deshen. In other words, right now we're using it for the word ashes, and it is the word for ashes, but Deshen means also other things as well in the Torah. Is anyone? We can read it.
Cow poop,
What? Did
cow
someone say something?
excrement, or is that also modern?
I think that's also more modern. Anyway, here, well, let's look at the sources. We don't have to guess. So share my source. I'm gonna share it again.
Am I totally making this up? I feel like Deshen is from Bereshit, and it's one of the vegetable things that God makes on the day of the vegetables.
That could be. I don't know. I have to check. I'm not sure. That's not one of the sources to do, but do a Google search right now and see if
Maybe
that
it's
comes up.
desha, right? Like grass, right?
Yeah, that could be, that's desha is what you're thinking of. Yeah, that might be right. Okay. Anyway, I brought a couple verses to see how Trumata Deshen is used. So we can, okay. All right. So,
Hello?
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of the word dashen, like shenim v'ra'ananim yiyu. So that's
Exactly.
completely different.
Exactly.
Or is it not so different?
What did you say, Ziva? I'm sorry, I didn't catch
That not so different. I kind of thought of it as a positive state, dashenim v'ra'ananim yiyu, but dashen here doesn't sound positive to me.
Right. Exactly. Yes. So that source. I didn't bring that exact source, but the sources here are similar to the one you're bringing of Deshinim v'ra'ananim yiyu, where it's a very positive. Do you know how you would translate it there?
Well, it's someplace in Tehillim.
Yeah, it's like, it's bountiful, it's richness, it's like let's look at these verses and we'll see. It's exactly along those lines that you're saying, Ziva. Does someone want to read the Jeremiah in English?
I can do that.
Okay, go ahead.
They shall come and shout on the heights of Zion, radiant over the bounty of the Lord, over new grain and wine and oil, and over sheep and cattle. They shall fare like a watered garden. They shall never languish again. Then shall maidens dance gaily, young men and old alike. I will turn their mourning to joy. I will comfort them and cheer them in their grief. I will give the priests their fill of fatness, Deshen, and my people shall enjoy my full bounty, declares the Lord.
Exactly. So here, what are the associations? Or let's read the second. You want to read also the Psalms, and then we'll.
Oh, I am sated as with a rich Deshen feast. I sing praises with joyful lips.
Okay, so what are the associations here with Deshen and these two, and also the example that Ziva brought of Deshenim v'ra'ananim yiyu?
Abundance.
Yeah, exactly. Abundance, right? Richness, abundance, being satiated, right? So, okay, so putting these two together, right? We can see already that Trumata Deshen is something more elevated, right? Putting together the Truma on the one hand, which is sort of elevating the physical, right? Sanctifying it to God, literally bringing it up. It's literally bringing it up, but also spiritually, right? Like elevating by giving the Truma, we're elevating the food to God. And Deshenim, which is richness, fullness, satiation. Is that a word? Whatever, being satiated. So we see already by the words that the Torah chooses to describe Trumata Deshen that that something is going on here more than just taking out the garbage. And it's not just, you know, sort of getting rid of the ashes. And then when we get into the actual, like, what's going on here, which we started to talk about, and Shai was also asking some questions, right? So the Mishnah in Tamid gives us a very detailed and exciting description of Trumat HaDeshen, which also we will see makes it a lot more exciting than taking out the garbage. So does someone want to read the Mishnah in Tamid?
Whoever wants to remove the ashes from the altar rises early and immerses himself in a ritual bath. He must immerse before the appointed priest arrives. And at what time does the appointed priest arrive? Well, the times of his arrival are not all the same. There are times that he comes at the call of the rooster, or he might come at an adjacent time, either before the call of the rooster or after it. The appointed priest arrived at the chamber of the hearth, and he knocked on the gate to alert them to open the gate for him. And when they opened the gate for him, he said to them, "Whoever immersed in the mikveh may come and participate in the lottery." They then conducted the lottery, and whoever won that lottery won the privilege to perform the rite of the removal of the ashes. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I'll just, stop. So we see already that this is like you have to wake up early. You don't know exactly when the priest is going to come. And then we do who will get this privilege, this wonderful privilege of taking out the ashes. Okay, yeah, so keep going. Who's reading? I'm sorry, I can't see exactly.
Oh, it's either me or it's my cat, but my cat just left, so I guess it was me. Miriam.
Who is it? I can't see who.
It's Miriam.
Oh, Miriam. Okay, I don't know why I can't see. Okay, I can't see your face, but thank you, Miriam. Okay, now I see you. Okay, go ahead, Miriam, keep going.
The priest who won the lottery to remove the ashes from the altar shall then remove the ashes. And the other priests say to him, "Be careful that you do not touch the vessel until you sanctify your hands and your feet from the basin." The coal pan is placed in the corner between the ramp and the altar on the western side of the ramp. No person would enter with the priest who was removing the ashes, and there was no lamp in his hand. Rather, he would walk by the light of the arrangement of wood on the altar. The other priests would not see him, nor could they hear the sound of his steps. They were therefore unaware of his progress until they heard the sound of the wood that Ben Katin crafted into a mechanism of pulleys that we used to sink the basin. They said to each other, the time for sanctifying hands and feet has come. The Kohen sanctified his hands and his feet with water from the basin. He then took the silver coal pan and ascended to the top of the altar. The Kohen cleared the upper layer of coals to this side and scooped into the coal pan the inner coals that were completely consumed. He then descended the ramp.
Thank you for your dramatic reading. So how do the Mishnah rabbis describe this story? Like, what words would you use to describe it?
It's a big privilege to be able to do this.
Right, it's a big privilege, and they woke up early. They wanted to be, they were motivated to be able to do this. Yeah, what else?
And it's also very complicated. You have to take a course in order to know what to do.
Right, exactly. Yes, and all the other priests are like, they're behind him, but they're reminding him of all the things that he has to remember. Be careful you don't touch the vessel. The coal pan, this is also supposed to be this next sentence. The coal pan is placed in the corner. Like they're giving him pointers sort of as he goes, so he doesn't forget the important things. What else?
There's a tremendous amount of detail here, so that it's very specific. It has to be done this way. And I liked your sort of introduction of it, where you said, it's like incredibly exciting. Next week we're going to see what happens next. We can't wait. I'm at the edge of my seat.
Exactly.
Wondering, will he successfully remove the ashes?
when are they gonna have to?
Rachel, I think
Yeah.
maybe you're sitting far from the camera sometimes, but your voice kind of coming in and out. And
Oh,
all I
really?
can hear you. Okay,
Sorry.
it's better now.
Is that better? Yeah, maybe when I
Mhm.
go like that, then it's okay. I'll try to stay close to the camera. Yes, exactly. It's very exciting. It's like yeah, it's who is the next coin that will be up, and yeah. What any other associations that people have?
One thing that struck me as I was kind of reading it was
Mhm.
just that sense, it's almost magical and mysterious that, the sun is
Exactly.
coming up, it's still dark and, and you're alone there in I don't know if that was the courtyard or the whole, outer holy area, but like, it's just you and God. And I don't know,
Exactly.
it felt pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's very, yes, it's very mysterious. He's there, he's the only one there. There's no lamp, he's walking by the light of the wood. It is very magical and very intimate in some way. And all the other priests are sort of waiting behind the scenes, waiting to see, will he do it? Will he not do it? When is he going to, like, when is it going to happen? Yes, there's definitely like magic, mystery. Also like intimacy, like you're saying, intimacy between this priest who wins this privilege and God. Hey, normally, he's the only one there, and it's dark, and it's there. Yeah, exactly. I like that. Anything else that anyone wants to add?
What is this interesting pulley mechanism that they talk about?
Yeah, what is that pulley? Yeah, exactly. That's used to sink the basin. Yeah. Yes, the mechanics of this are very interesting. How did this exactly work? And I didn't even get to the part. You're very interesting. The question about where does it go? This is only the Trumat edition, right? I didn't get to the part of the taking out. You'll have to read the rest of the Mishnayot Shai to answer the rest of your question about the clean place and where does this all go. Yes, but there's a lot of interesting technical details on how this all works. Okay, so
Rachel,
yeah. Mhm.
Is Ben Katin, that's somebody, that's a name? It's not not an honorific of some kind. It's a name, Ben Katin.
It's a name. I don't know the details, but yes, it's a name.
Yeah. So, I like that he gets a shout out also.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody
Wood that
knows.
Ben Katin crafted. Yes.
Yeah. This for the sake of anybody else who's doing this, we've been watching The Mandalorian, and this reminds me a lot of some of the things they always end with "This is the way," and I was thinking, oh, this would end very nicely with "This is the way." Very specific.
I have no idea what The Mandalorian is, but my son was just watching it on my video. I just turned it off 2 seconds, like a few minutes before class, so he was watching it also. But I didn't actually know it.
Well,
I wasn't watching it.
Go to him and say, "This is the way," and see what kind of reaction you get.
Okay, I will. So so sort of building a little bit on what Miriam was saying, Rev Nagan, who I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. Rev Nagan is a rabbi he's at the yeshiva in Otniel. He writes a lot. He's originally American, so he also and he also does a lot of interfaith work, and he writes very beautifully and poetically about the Mishnah. And he also has books about Parshat HaShavua, but this is a book that he wrote about the Mishnah, but sort of finding like some of the more, spiritual, deeper meanings of the Mishnah. The book is called the Soul of the Mishnah. And it's actually translated into English, but I didn't have the translation, so I'll just read the Hebrew and translate it. But what he points out is somebody is again, like building off a lot of what Miriam was talking about, or the magic and the intimacy of the moment. So if someone want to read the Song of Songs? Anyone?
Yeah, I'll read that. This is the chapter I read every year, actually.
Oh, okay, perfect. So you can lane it for us.
Yeah, do you want to hear me chant it? It's okay. The blossoms have appeared in the land. The time of pruning has come. The song of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The green figs form on the fig tree. The vines in blossom give off fragrance. Arise, my darling, my fair one, come away. O my dove in the cranny of the rocks, hidden by the cliff, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is comely.
So what is a little harder to see in the English, but if we go back into the Hebrew, what Ren again points out is that there's a lot of allusions in this passage from the Mishnah to this passage in Shir HaShirim. And use a lot of the same words, like eight, like we're waiting for this time to come. Tigia, the time comes. The kol nishma, like we hear the voice. Right here, we're talking about, we're hearing the olechi lach, and we go har'eni et marech yishmieni et kolech, that the lover is asking the beloved, right, to let me see your face, let me hear your voice. So a lot of these words are actually used in the Mishnaic description of this Trumat Hadeshen, of the, right, they're trying to, all the priests outside are like listening for what's going on, and they're waiting, when will the time come, when will the time come? And it's a lot of similar language. So what Reverend again, I'll read this and translate it since I don't have it in the English. What Reverend again suggests is that this is a sort of an intentional allusion to show, ALLUSION, to show exactly sort of the romance and the intimacy of this moment. So he says, "Hitbonanut v'mishnah ma'aleh yesod chashuv b'avodat Hashem." So looking at the Mishnah, sort of raises up a point of a fundamental, important point in worship, in the avodah of Hashem, in worshiping God. Pisgat hakesher im hakadosh baruch hu, the high point of our connection with God, mimusha ahava v'intimiyut hametu'eret b'shir hashirim, the fulfillment of the love and the intimacy that's described in Shir HaShirim, in the Song of Songs, Museget b'Mishnah Yedei Trumat Hadeshen, is attained in the Mishnah through Trumat Hadeshen. Kula Yom Yomi Shenir'et Kepinui Hazal al Gavei HaMizbeach, a everyday, daily action that looks like just taking out the garbage, right? Like we said at the beginning, right? Clearing off the garbage that is left over on the altar at the end of the day. Derech zo mimush chazon ha'ava sheb'shir hashirim. So this way of fulfilling the vision of love that we see in the Song of Songs, nir'et li nechona gam v'kasher sheben ish l'isha. So this seems to me like the correct way of fulfilling this vision of love, also in the relationship between man and woman. Like paying attention to the small details of life, and the daily needs of the partner, this is the way to show love. And the smaller the details, the more they testify to the greatness of love. So I love this comparison.
Just double checking, Rachel, did you see the link that Miriam put in the chat?
No, I didn't.
She put a
the pulley system. That's great.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you, Miriam. I'll look at that in a little bit. Awesome, thank you. Cool. Okay. So right. So Rav again is really. I loved how he described how this is the very language really is romantic language, and that the romance is in the small details, as it were. The intimacy, the building of intimacy is in the small details, and I think that's a theme that we see again and again in Sefer Vayikra regarding the relationship between people and God, and certainly applies obviously to relationships, interpersonal relationships as well, and especially the relationships that are closest relationships between two partners or between parents and children. So I wanted to come back to my original question of, and maybe now we can start to have the beginning of an answer. So why according to all this, why would Shumata Deshen be like the first thing or the main thing given as the detail under the headline of this is the law of the burnt offering from what we've seen so far? Any ideas? Right, like why are we talking about Shumata Deshen as opposed to, you know, what kind of animal or when we bring it? Any description of the sacrifice itself of the burnt offering?
Well, at the point that you're clearing the ashes, it doesn't really matter what the animal was. They all turn into the same ash.
Right, that's true. And why would but why would that be the detail given as the law of the burnt offering? In other words, you know, why not give other details? Why not describe the burnt offering itself? Why go straight to basically the end of the offering, right? And the end of any offering, really. Like Shai is saying, right? It doesn't have to be the burnt offering. Shumata Deshen is presumably the end of every, you know, that it's whatever's left over from whatever offerings have been on the.
Maybe it's kind of the lens or the context through which the Torah wants you to, like be understanding the offerings, that number one, all the details are important. And number two, that the offerings are like, the point of it is to make that relationship with Hashem, you know, to build that intimacy.
You're saying, so, and how would this show that? Then just spell it out a little more. I still can't see. Is it Miriam again? I can't.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Miriam again. And I was just saying, perhaps it's to offer a context or a lens with which to read the rest of the halachas of the different korbanot. That A, that the details are actually really important, and B, that the purpose is to, you know, foster that intimacy and that connection to God.
Yeah. So you're saying, so by starting with the most like detailed of details, as it were, is that what you're saying? That's proving the point of the importance of the details. In other words, by starting with this like seemingly small detail to explain what is the burnt offering, then we're showing the importance of the detail. Is that what you're saying? And then and all the more so by showing that this is what we do to create intimacy. Is that a fair?
I mean, I yes, and I don't know, but like just to kind of throw it out there, like maybe to make a lens through which the Torah wants you, you know, an introduction or whatever, to read the rest of it, because you know you can't stop there. You still need to know what to bring, you know, which animal, and you know who's going to do it, and how much is going to be eaten by the priests, and which parts are going to be waived, and whatever, right? Yeah. But before we can get to all that, you just need to know like why you're doing it. You know, it's like when you read the rules of a game. You know, you start with the win con, and then you go to like the details, right?
Right. So even though this actually seems like the most like the smallest of details, you're saying that this actually provides sort of a conceptual framework to see the sacrifices as a whole, or specifically the burnt offering in this case. Yeah. But
yeah. Ita also commented in the chat and said, so that we
Ita, I didn't even see that Ita's here. Hello, Ita. Yeah, what did Ita say?
She said, so that we know that even the details we might see as unimportant should be infused with kavanah.
Yeah, exactly. To show that even these seemingly unimportant details, if we elevate them, right, like we were talking about with the truma, right? We elevate them with our kavanah, which is actually, Reb Nagain also speaks a lot about the kavanah, like that you use that word, the kavanah, the importance of the kavanah behind these actions, both in our relationship with God and in our interpersonal relationships, that the kavanah can elevate even the most seemingly unimportant details, and that's one of the lessons of bringing this here. Thanks, Ita. Okay, so I want, and by the way, we also still have the second question, right? It's not only the Trumata Deshen that's brought, but as we saw in the beginning, it's also the, just to keep in mind, we also have the Eish Tamid, which is not our main focus, but just to also keep in mind that that's the second detail, the second detail given, maybe to explain what the burnt offering is. Okay,
Yeah.
so I wanted to look at a Hasidic source.
I think
so
Maureen.
Make another comment.
Maureen, did you have something to say?
I think
Sorry.
Maureen is trying. Maureen.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead, Maureen.
I was going to say that maybe it's even stronger than that. That actually, there's this expression: the devil is in the details, but maybe God is in the details. That actually, it's not that the details are small or unimportant, but rather the details are are the most important thing. That it's through the doing, the doing of the details. I mean, maybe I'm just reforming what other people said. Actually, now that I think of it, is this what Miriam said? This might be what Miriam said. That it's through these actions of carrying out these details that you come to an understanding of what it is you're supposed to be doing, and that they're the most important thing, not that it's actually relatively irrelevant, because we know, like, for sacrifices, that, like, if you don't have money, you can bring a smaller sacrifice, right? So when you're I think it depends on what it is, but if you don't have herds, you can bring a bird, and if you don't have birds, you can bring grain, and right. So I mean, that underscores how unimportant the actual thing that you bring is. The important thing is that you're bringing something, and then what happens to it and what is done with it is actually what elevates it, or what brings us closer to God.
I wanted to say something also,
Yeah,
if
sure.
I may.
Yeah.
There, you could look at it also as that there's a cycle of burning, the sacrifice, and then cleaning up, burning and cleaning up. Sort of Vahi El Bokel. When I think of a day, I think of it as starting in the morning, right? But we see Vahi El Bokel. So maybe also here they're saying, maybe you should think of it, you want to have a clean slate to start the process. And so cleaning that slate is important too. And in fact, they put it first.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I really like that, Shai, that it's a cycle, and the clearing off is really what enables the next day to happen. See that in a little bit, right? In other words, it's a cycle, and in order for that cycle to continue, the clearing off has to be done, and then that enables the cycle to begin again, right? So it's a very important part of the right Vayi Boker, right? It's on the one hand, it's the last thing, as if, that we do of the day, right? After all the sacrifices are burnt, we take off the ashes. But on the other hand, it's the first thing we do in the morning. That's what, and then we can offer new sacrifices. So it's offering. It enables a new sacrifice to be brought, which we'll see in a minute. Actually, hopefully we'll get to it. From Yonatan Grossman talks about exactly that point that you're bringing up, Shai. Okay, I want to look, we don't have too much more time, but I want to see the Sfat Emet, who is a Polish Hasidic Rebbe in the end of the 19th, even beginning of the 20th century, mostly end of the 19th century. And he sort of takes this whole thing, and he asks the same shot question that we asked. Why is this the heading? Why is Trumata Deshen the detail under the heading, and this is the law of the burnt offering? And he comes in, he brings a Hasidic explanation, which I really like and want to share with you all. So, does someone want to read it? This is the law of the burnt offering, 5635. Anyone?
I can read the English. This is the law of the Olah, burnt offering, the mitzvah of Trumat Hadeshin. This is difficult. Why is this called the law of the burnt offering when it is the last mitzvah after all the sacrifices of the day? The Olah comes to atone for the thoughts of the mind. As the Zohar says, this is the Olah, the bad thoughts of a person that are burned on the altar. This refers to the burning of the sin. However, in the aftermath of the burning of the yeast, the evil inclination, one needs to raise the ash because every descent is for the purpose of ascent. Everything is included in God's creation, as they say. He, God, creates darkness, and this means by burning the evil, one reaches the good. This fulfills the intention of the sacrifice. Hence, the raising of the ash is the ultimate purpose of the sacrifice. It is the burnt offering, which shall be burning on the hearth. All of the ascents happen through the complete devotion that a person has. The commandment here to remove the ashes hints that as we burn up the waste in our lives, we are uplifted each day and we are given new light. This redemptive process is with us every single day.
Exactly. So we don't have so much time. I'll just, there's like so much here. There's so much to say, and we don't have so much time to talk about it too much. But basically, right, the Sfat Emet is saying that and he gives a sort of a symbolic interpretation of the Olah, which is actually, I mean, he's referring to what the rabbis in the Gemara say, that the Olah is burning our bad thoughts on the altar, right? That anything we might, as Rabbi Poland calls it, are less than noble thoughts. He doesn't like the bad, but like, I might think something not nice about someone, or I don't like their clothes, or I don't like what they did, or whatever, and then I feel bad about it. Why am I wasting my time with these bad thoughts? So the point of the Olah is to burn up those bad thoughts in my mind in order to on the altar, in order to sort of make room for the good thoughts. And in classic Hasidic faction, he says, "Kol yirida l'tzorach aliyah." Every descent is for the purpose of ascent. So in other words, the burning up the bad thoughts actually gets me to a higher point, right? And that's why the Trumat Hadeshin is so important, because we're burning the bad in order to elevate, right? Trumat Hadeshin, in order to elevate, we're elevating the bad to the to make room for the good. It's not even like we're sort of transforming the bad into the good, and that's why Trumat Hadeshin is so important. It's actually the ultimate purpose of the sacrifice. So of course it should be listed as it should be the first thing. We say this is the law of the burnt offering. We talk about Trumat Hadeshin.
I was kind of struck by the.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm so sorry. I think I had a Zoom moment. Did I interrupt you?
Yeah. Oh no, it's okay. Yes. Did you want to say something?
I was just struck by the change in agency, because in the first section, it's in the aftermath of the burning, one needs to raise the ash, right? So it is my job and my challenge to then raise the ash, right? But then in the second one is, as we burn up the waste, we are uplifted and we are given, right? And so it's very much a change from it being our challenge to, go out there and make meaning from that burning and to raise it up again, to it being that meaning just being kind of given to us as grace, as a gift. You know what I'm saying?
We have to burn up the waste in our lives, right? Still our job, but then God steps in, as it were, and gives us the new light. You know what I'm saying? In other words, it's like it's a two-way process, right? Like we do our, like as they would say, our hishtadlut, right? That we burn up the waste in our lives, and then in return, God maybe steps in and uplifts our lives and gives us new light. Yeah, it's very moving. And this also already begins, I always say there's so much to say, we only have 1 more minute, to allude to the second question, the second part of the passage we read at the beginning, right, which was about the perpetual light, the Eish Tamid, and how is that connected? So he talks about, so Sfat Emet talks about the complete devotion that a person has. In other words, this perpetual, like, that Siva, I see you have a question.
It's Sivan, yeah. Sivan.
Sivan. Okay. Sivan, hold on 1 minute. I'll get to it. I just want to, I see also we're running out of time. I just want to very quickly look at this source and then I'll get to your question. So this question of the Eish Tamid. So I'm not going to read it now inside, but the Professor Jonathan Grossman basically talks about how, right, because we had this is the law of the burnt offering, and then we had the Trumat Hadeshin, and then the next thing was the Eish Tamid, the perpetual fire. So the question was, how are these all connected? So Professor Grossman basically says that sort of along the lines of what Shai said that the Trumat Hadeshin sort of makes way for the new sacrifice. So that's like the renewal, the new things that we bring each day to our relationship to God. And it might be that we bring a totally different sacrifice this day because we're in a different place than we were yesterday. And then the Eish Tamid is like the constant presence of God that doesn't change, our constant devotion to God as well. And that our relationship to God in any relationship, right, has to have both of these, right? We have both the regularity, continuity, the Eish Tamid, and then on the other hand, the Trumat Hadeshin, which allows, like Shai was saying, for the new sacrifices and renewal of our relationship every day to God. So yes, Sivan.
Why are the laws of Truma so elaborate, precise, and exact? This and not that. So why is it so precise?
Why are the laws so elaborate? You're referring mainly in the Mishnah and meaning all these laws are very elaborate and precise, right? I think that's exactly like the question that we're dealing with in this class, and we'll deal with throughout the in the rest of these sessions as well. Is like what is the meaning of all these details? What can we do with them? Do we just like read them quickly and show, or do we like try to find ways that ways to make them meaningful for us? And in general, life is made up a lot of details, and often they're precise, and often they're, seem unimportant. And like, what do we do with them, and how do we elevate them and bring them higher? So I think that's exactly like the question that we've been dealing with today, and that we'll continue to address in the rest of this course. So I want to thank everybody for joining me. I see now that it's 10:03, and I don't know how it works, Evie. I don't know if people have questions. Are they allowed to just stay and ask me, and I can officially?
We can continue with questions for like 5 more minutes.
Okay, so if anyone has any, this is the official end. If anyone has to leave, can leave. But if anyone has any questions that they wanted to ask, then I am here and I'm happy to answer any questions. And thank you all for coming. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
So I see a question from Hannah about Eish Tamid. Oh, Hannah, go ahead and just unmute. Oh, Hannah, I think you will have to, can you accept the invitation to become a panel? Yeah, there you go. Okay, perfect. Okay, so Hannah will ask a question in just a moment. So just unmute first, Hannah.
That's fine. Okay. I just wanted to make a comment about the Eish Tamid. Why the Eish Tamid? Because if there was no Eish Tamid, then we would have to rekindle our commitment to Hashem every time anew. And because of that, there is an Eish Tamid.
Right.
So that little spark is there all the time, and all we have to do is continue and make that spark as bigger as an ish, and enable us to actually use that fire in order to, how shall I say, la'avodat Hashem.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. First of all, welcome. I'm really glad, really happy to see you. I'm glad you're here.
No, I was here, but I wasn't part of the, it took me time to register and to come and to get the things and whatever. So I didn't want
to point. Yeah, I wanted to point out along the lines of what you're saying that we say here. So there's an ish tamid, which shall be kept burning, but on the other hand, every morning the priest shall burn on it the wood. So in other words, there's an ish tamid, there's a perpetual fire, and we feed it every morning. So it's always there, like you're saying, but we do feed it. Like we have a job that we have to feed it every morning, and it will be there regardless, right? But there is again, like when we're talking about what is our role, right? That we try to give it new, like the Sfat Emet in Hasidic teaching says that we have to bring like our new inspiration each day that sort of feeds the fire, like you're saying, that like it's always there, but we feed it with our new and
because otherwise, I mean, it's the same. The people that are old enough, like myself, in here, can understand, can remember maybe the wood stoves that you had to kind of continue putting in the logs in order to make them in the morning continue burning, so that they don't go out and you have to rekindle them again. So there is this esh tamid that has to be there in order for us to actually be able to and it may be even just a tiny little spark, but sometimes it's a bigger one. It depends on what's left from the day before, or from the way that we practice and the way that we do things, and how it will be, how much effort will we have to make in order to make the fire much bigger.
Right. Yeah, it's a beautiful image. It's a beautiful image, and it's very true. Right. It's always this balance. Like we have this sort of constant relationship with God, or with another person as well. You could take it into that direction also, but each day we feed it. We do different things. We do new things that help it to get stronger. I see Sivan has another question.
It's actually a follow-up on the question. I was not saying that all these details are meaningless, and there is a lot of depth and meaning in each and every one of the detail. But my question is more like, it's almost like a king invites you to his daughter's wedding, and he says, okay, you'll have to climb 2 steps at a time and bring a gift of this type, wrapped in this cover and placed exactly there. Would that make sense? And in Judaism, we always talk about a relationship with God, and it's a profound relationship. In that relationship is not anything acceptable. Is it bound on minute rules observed exactingly, or is there some other allusion to that? Is it like is there an implication that these details are more like rules of magic, and when these details are exactly applied, some sort of a magic happens? Sorry, magic is not a permissible word in
Use the word magic.
your culture, but can you did you hear my question?
How necessary are all the details? You're saying like how stuck are we in all the details? How is that your question? In other words, how inflexible are the details, or is that your question more?
Yes, and no, it is inflexible. The rules seem inflexible, but why? If we talk about a relationship with God, if there is a relationship, is not anything acceptable. Should it be so exact?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it prescribed to be exact? Is there some other allusion to it? Like when these rules are exactly applied, when it's exactly followed ritualistically, some sort of a magic happens or it triggers some positive effect. Is there such an import to such details?
That we need each detail in order for the magic of the mishka of the temple to occur.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a agreement we have, I think, in general in Judaism, what is the importance of the details? How necessary are all the details? Can't we just do without the details, Is it necessary for the magic to happen? I think I'll leave it open for now. We'll continue the discussion in future weeks.
Thank you
to everyone.
Thank you so much, Rachel, and thank you so much, everyone who joined us today here on
Thanks
Zoom.
so much for everyone for participating. I wasn't sure if in this Zoom format I would get everyone to participate, so I'm happy that everyone did.
And again, I want to thank Rachel for this wonderful class, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Lehitraot.